Caleb, let's get to the picks, and I'll tell you whether or not I agree by a couple of sounds.
Hey now.
Or
that's crazy.
Yep, and you've got a lot of crazy ones, so that button's about to wear out.
So this is the week that chaos hits college football, and here's why. There are no games. There are no games featuring top 25 teams this week, Dave. But there are a bunch of top 25 teams going on the road to face unranked teams with winning records.
Yep.
And that is when you get things separated, isn't it?
Yeah, when you have that happen, crazy stuff will ensue. All right. So
I got some crazy ones.
Let's get to it.
All right. So the first one, one undefeated team is Missouri. They are visiting Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M covers the 2.5-point spread. Mike Elko has quietly built a 4-1 team after that rough loss. And I think Texas A&M covers the 2.5. I think the College Station crowd is too much for Eli Drinkwitz and company. And I think it becomes an offensive shootout with Texas A&M's new quarterback. And so they end up winning, I'm going to say 31-24.
I agree with that. Missouri, are they the worst undefeated team that gets talk about playing for a national championship? I mean, does anybody really think that Missouri's going to be there at the end? I mean, we could make arguments against Alabama and arguments against Georgia if we wanted to. Those would be difficult. We could make arguments against Tennessee and Ole Miss, obviously, after the loss. But to me, Missouri, just on face value, I would be incredibly stunned if they're actually a factor in the college football playoff.
I would too. The two that are getting a lot of talk that are undefeated right now, Missouri and Indiana. Indiana is another team that may be more fraudulent than Missouri, but Missouri is pretty darn fraudulent, honestly. And so,
okay, well, if Indiana makes the college football playoff, it's just time to shut it down. Just postpone it and do it next year. Try again. I'm not even joking. I mean, if Indiana and Missouri make the college football playoff, then we're selling this puppy to whoever wants to buy off the hook sports, because I've completely seen enough and know nothing about football if Indiana and Missouri make the college football playoff, especially together, but Indiana alone. All right, Caleb, who's next?
All right, so next, controversial, but this is a week of you are not what your record says, which is to say teams that look really bad, so they're big underdogs based on their record, could be much better. One of those teams is obviously Auburn. They're 2-3, and if it wasn't for the fact that they throw interceptions all over the field, they'd be 5-0 right now. But they're in every game. So, visiting Georgia, I think take Auburn plus 22. I don't think Georgia covers that 22-point spread, and I'm going to say take the under. I think Georgia's a little demoralized after last week, so they're going to be lethargic. Auburn's got an ugly offense as is, but they'll make the game ugly. And because of that, they're not going to lose by 22, and I think the game hits the under.
Okay, I'd agree with that.
Hey now.
I thought you were going to go all rogue on Hugh Freeze, which you like to do for good reason, but no, you didn't. You went the other way, so good stuff.
Yeah, I think covers. All right, so now here's the next one. You know, South Carolina was on a roll, guys. They're coming off a bye, and Ole Miss just had a brutal loss. So obviously, facing Ole Miss at home, South Carolina is going to not lose by 9, where Ole Miss is favored by 9, right? Wrong. The reason Ole Miss lost last week is Mark Stoops totally changed up his game plan and had a very creative style against Ole Miss that Lane Kiffin wasn't ready for. Nobody thinks Shane Beamer's smart enough to do that unless Connor Stallions is giving him plays. Ouch. So I think Ole Miss covers the 9-point spread. They win by more than 9. And I think Jackson Dart looks like a Heisman candidate, so the game hits the over 53.5.
I would take Ole Miss minus 20.
Hey now.
All right, go ahead.
I totally agree.
Lane's mad. And by the way, I'm glad we didn't discuss it, but there's somebody at Ole Miss that gets paid to talk about fashion, and they did a story on his daughters and what they were wearing.
Hey now.
It's kind of creepy. It's very creepy.
Very creepy.
All right, getting back to Missouri real quick before we move forward with your picks. Will you read the poll question, Caleb?
Yeah, sure. Let's see what it says. Worst team in CFP talk is Missouri. Tigers.
Worst. We couldn't understand you.
The worst team in CFP talk is Missouri, Tigers, anyone else.
I mean, it's Missouri. There's
Missouri.
no debate. Who's second?
I mean, I think Indiana's the worst team in CFP talk, but like
they're not really in CFP talk. I'm not kidding about shutting the whole thing down if Indiana makes it. That's not going to happen.
I'm just saying, that's Larry Bird country, okay? That's Bobby Knight. You're gonna go choke a player basically if they make it. You're gonna throw a chair, aren't you?
Okay, I will throw a chair. By the way, so if anybody can tell me really quick, like every state has a couple of nicknames, but if anybody can tell me on the chat really quick the funniest nickname that Arkansas has, then I'll hook you up with a t-shirt. How about that? All right, what's next, Caleb?
All right, so three more, and then we'll do our best bets. So, well, two more. We'll save Tennessee for last. But so, Alabama, Vanderbilt. I think Alabama covers a 22.5-point spread. I know Vanderbilt's coming off a bye, but they don't look as good as they looked at the first 2 weeks. I don't think they're a good team, and their defense is absolutely horrendous. And Jalen Milroe is looking like a Heisman candidate. So Alabama minus 22.5 because they score at will. So take the over 54.5.
That's crazy.
No, I think that both teams, and you alluded to it slightly, I think both teams have a bit of a hangover because of the tough physical game they played in. So I think both teams, Alabama and Georgia, will fall a little bit short of what you might think. So Richard guesses the all-natural state. It's not that. All right, what's next?
All right, next, by the way, I'm sorry, it's Vanderbilt. And Dave, I'm guessing you're weighing the fact that, Vanderbilt playing in Nashville, that home Vanderbilt crowd is going to be tough for Alabama.
There's nothing like Neyland West on a Saturday afternoon.
All right, so Florida is a 2.5-point underdog to UCF. I'm taking Florida. I'm taking Florida plus 2.5, and I'm taking the over 61.5 because both teams' defenses are horrible. We just saw UCF give up 48 points to Colorado and not be able to pressure Shedeur Sanders when Colorado has one of the worst offensive lines in college football. I think because of that, Florida's going to be able to score at will. So I actually think take Florida plus 2.5 against UCF and take the over. And I would actually say take Florida money line in this one. I think they actually went outright, but I got a better money line on my best bets.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't see that. I think Florida's an up and down team. I would not even think about so Rustastic made me laugh. I wouldn't even think about doing anything with Florida financially. Okay, so it is I still don't have it. The answer in the chat board as to the nickname that Arkansas has that they should be embarrassed about. Rustastic took my favorite Alabama joke that I use for every Alabama week and have for a number of years. Do you want to read that one, Caleb?
Yeah, the toothbrush was invented in Arkansas. If it was invented anywhere else, it would be the teeth brush. By the way, that joke applies. Every southern state makes that joke at another southern state.
Not Tennessee.
They're like, that is total bullshit.
No, people do.
I know, but it's especially funny with Alabama. All right, still, I don't have the answer that I'm looking for. You can win a T-shirt, but no.
Arkansas is the natural state, and hookers love natural states. But that Arkansas is called the natural state.
Okay. I'm aware of that, but there's another one out there that's better, and I thought Rustastic had it for a second. The Bear State. No, that's not what I'm looking for, Richard. What's next, Caleb?
All right, so those are all. I'll save Tennessee for the end. Now I'm going to go to my best bets. And by the way, you're wrong about Florida. They're coming off a bye. They're going to blow out UCF, actually. I think they may win convincingly. All right, so my best bets. The only one of the SEC ones that I said was my best bet was Alabama Vanderbilt. You may disagree with me on the spread, but what about the over? I think the over 54.5. I think that game's going to go way over that score.
I'm going to disagree. I think that I think both teams' offenses were a little beat up, but we shall see.
But Vanderbilt's defense is air, so no, that's the best bet on the over of the week. You're wrong. Sorry. All right, so the best cover. Oregon's going to cover the 23.5-point spread against Michigan State. Oregon started slow, but they've been blowing out teams recently. And Michigan State, 23.5, I think take Oregon to cover that because they are blowing teams out in the games at Oregon.
Okay. All right. And what's next?
UCLA at Penn State. Penn State's favored by 28. I say take UCLA plus 28. Penn State's not going to win by 28. Their offense is shady. And for the third week in a row, Dave, I'm picking UCLA to cover the spread while losing in a blowout because the spread's just too large against them.
Hey now. Okay, I'll roll with you on that one.
All right, and then I'm going to give you my under, and then I'll give you my super dog. Sorry. So my under of the week is Michigan at Washington. Man, take the under 41.5. This game might go under 30.
Hey now.
I would agree with that. And we'll get your big one brought to you by Asia Cafe, asiacafe.org. Asia Cafe, by the way, has over 5 locations to choose from. And you can go to asiacafe.org and order that fantastic 6-to-1 Brazilian cocoa energy booster premix instant white coffee from the Lim Dynasty. He has carried the torch as a Philip Lim I'm talking about, 3rd generation family business. And he's right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We ate there last night, and it was twice this week. It's so good. asiacafe.org, and you can go online and order that coffee. It'll be a game changer. So, Caleb, your big pick is, and then we've still got our big prize to give away. Our pick 6 brought to you by Sports Treasures.
Well, we also have to bet. We also have to pick Tennessee, but yeah.
Yes, and we'll do that too. I'm just teasing forward.
Alrighty, so my big pick. Now, if you want the safe super dog, go with Florida plus 2.5 and go with them on money line. But you disagree with me on that, Dave. So I'm going to take a 10.5 point underdog at home. And they are branding this game Woke versus Coke. And I'm betting on Woke. And what I'm talking about is Miami has to visit Cal in Berkeley this week. And Cal, the game's at 10:30. Miami time, 7:30 Cal time. Miami should have lost last week to a bad Virginia Tech team. I think they're coming undone just a little bit, and Cal's coming off a bye. So I'm betting that Woke upsets Coke this week.
It's the worst. Another Uncle Dave story. Ed Orgeron speaking to the quarterback club. And, well, let me tell you, everybody loves Warren Saplings on Saturday. Nobody loves getting the M16 out of his dorm room on Monday.
What?
It's actually happened. And in front of the quarterback club, everybody just was stunned. And this was early in the year, so everybody thought that Tennessee was going to roll with Kiffin for a decade. And he said that, and everybody's like, what in the world have we gotten ourselves into? Because those are the big-time boosters of the program. There's like 150 or 200 of them. Oh, nobody wants to get the M16 from his dorm room on Monday. What?
Was he drunk at the quarterback club?
I mean, it was noon and he had an afternoon practice, so I would hope not, but I'm not ruling it out.
I'm just
nothing like a Red Bull and vodka to get your day started. All right.
And so, well, wait, do you agree with me? Do you think Cal pulls the upset, Dave? I want to know if Dave's going to go. Are you going to go in with me, Dave? Are you going to go in with me on this? If you agree with me, I will put some of Quincy's college fund towards it. I'm kidding.
I'm in.
You're in.
I'm in. I really do like that pick, honestly.
I do too.
But what odds would you get on a straight up money bet?
That's what I'm doing. This is a money line bet. So Cal Miami money line, I think it was plus 350 going into the week. So you bet.
Steven says the Diamond State. I live here, but have no clue what you're looking for. Okay, here it is. All right. Arkansas is known as the toothpick state because of the common practice of men carrying large knives in the early days of the state. Men in Arkansas often carried large sheath or belt knives known as double-edged dirks or daggers. These knives were inexpensive and served as a common sidearm. So that's considered a toothpick out there. They're also known as the natural state as well.
That is wild.
Toothpick state.
Toothpick state. Oh my! What in the world?
That makes me think of a more redneck state than the toothbrush joke thing, because you think of maybe I've got some relatives that live in Alabama, but one of them may be my uncle, and he may always have a toothpick in his mouth. That's probably true.
Well, you know what's funny that throws me off is that, did you know a lot? Because I know we all know where the term redneck kind of comes from. It actually derives from. It comes from labor unions in the coal industry, funny enough. A lot of people think it came from the whole sunburn on the farmers' necks. That's actually not true. It came from members of labor unions in the coal industry who would oftentimes wear red bandanas to signify their loyalty with other labor leaders.
I used to use the term, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
I'm just saying it's funny because when you think redneck, you do think the farmers and the suntan, but it's like, they also say it came in Appalachia. As you and I both know, Dave, Appalachia is not as sunny as like an Alabama or a Mississippi or an Arkansas.
I used to use the term redneck all the time like instead of hillbilly. I didn't know that it had racial overtones.
I didn't know that either.
Oh, that it has racial. Yeah. So the difference between hillbilly and redneck is a lot of times when people say redneck, they're referring to someone that's racist. Now that's not across the board, but I think it was Fred White. I referred to someone as a redneck, and he said, I would have never known that. And I said, yeah, he's a country boy. And he goes, wait a second. Do we mean the same thing when we say redneck? So I think it was Fred.
Oh my gosh. I never knew that.
Yeah, I just used to throw it around flippantly. All right, so we got to get stuff away.
Well, we got to give our Tennessee pick first, then we'll give stuff away.
All right. My pick is online, 42-13. I think Tennessee wins. A terrible, terrible passing defense, and I think Nico has a big game and they win easily.
You know, the models are all saying Arkansas is going to cover this at +11, but what people don't realize is Josh Heupel against the spread since he's been at Tennessee, 3-0 off a bye against the spread.
Spread buster.
And so Tennessee is going to cover the 13.5-point spread at Arkansas, and the game is going to hit the over 56.5. Now, Dave, you're calling the under. You're going to say it hits the under because you're saying 42-13. I'm going to go over, so I'm going to go 49-13.
Because of Tennessee's defense, I'm going to err on the side of the under in most games. I'll go ahead and tell you that.